of what IDAL can do to help these companies in Lebanon cope with the economic and financial crisis. IDAL, as a national export promotion agency and investment development agency, has a greater responsibility today to support companies in Lebanon in accessing new markets. And this is why, since the appointment of the new board in October 2019, we doubled our efforts on the export promotion side and started developing targeted plans and strategies to assist these companies to be ready to export. Definitely, the COVID-19 crisis came at a very critical time, and we had so many plans, and we were already embarking on so many new initiatives. However, yes? Can you hear me? Or someone unmuted?
Celine Asmaili, Celine, can you hear me?
Yes, Atif, now we can hear you.
Celine?
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry, Amira, we interrupted you.
Okay, I will continue.
Yes.
Anyways,
Celine,
however,
can you hear me?
COVID-19 will not stop us. Let's fix the Atif issue first before we continue down.
Hello, Celine.
Mr. Atif, we can hear you very well. Can you mute yourself, please?
Hear you.
Okay.
But you cannot hear us, maybe.
Yeah, هلا منال عم تساعدنا شوي. For one reason, we could not hear you.
Okay. So, I will continue now. I'm muted, and Amira is doing now the opening remarks. Okay?
سيرين عم تسمعينا هلا؟
هي شو ميوت؟
بس
نحن ما نسمع أميرة عم تحكي.
نحن عم سامعيننا.
هي أميرة عم تفتح
مستر عاطف هلا عم بحكي ما كنت عم وقفت.
يعني انت البروبلم انت you can't hear us بس now we can hear you now.
Okay. Let's mute ourselves.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Hello, Amira. You can continue.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So what I was saying that COVID-19 came at a very critical time, and we had so many plans and initiatives, but definitely COVID-19 will not stop us. Here we are launching our second webinar, and we have much more plans in the pipelines. And as soon as travel restrictions are lifted, we will start organizing again the participations in the leading fairs and exhibitions. I can proudly say that IDAL has been adapting itself to the new normal, and we were successful in showing how our organization is agile and flexible and ready to face the challenges. What we did is that since March 2020, we have launched our virtual free legal and tax advice to help companies in understanding regulations and doing business in Lebanon. We have been offering also free business advisory support to companies that reach out to us. We have assisted more than 10 companies in the last 3 months in market research and supported them in their feasibility studies. We have compiled list of companies that innovated during the COVID-19 crisis to showcase Lebanese potential to the world. We have also recently launched an investment and export guide to businesses interested to produce COVID-19 related products. Now, going back to our webinar of today, we all know that the EU market represents an important opportunity for our companies today. The EU-Lebanon Association Agreement that has entered into force in 2006 has established preferential arrangements to boost Lebanese exports to the EU. Although our export doubled in value since the agreement came into force, it is still considered not enough, as we were already starting from a low base and the balance of trade has grown significantly in the EU's favor. That's why it is important for us now to work together, public and private sector, to understand the main impediments not allowing our companies to access the EU market and how we can work on resolving them as soon as possible. The EU bloc is our main trade partner, where 40% of total imports in 2019 originated from the EU countries. And the EU is one of the largest donors to Lebanon, assisting Lebanon in its vision for stability and growth and employment. We take this opportunity to thank you, Mr. Aulukhio Montiano, the EU Commission, representing the EU Commission, for their continuous support, especially in these difficult times. I would like also to thank all the speakers for accepting to joining us today and sharing with our audience their knowledge and experience. I would like to thank the Lebanese Embassy in Brussels too, and in particular the Economic Attaché, Mr. Saadallah Zaiter, for being very active and collaborative with IDAL to ensure the success of this event. We are really looking forward for the discussion that will take place following the webinar, and the team at IDAL is ready to continue the discussions with the various stakeholders and work on an action plan that aims to facilitate the export of Lebanon goods to the EU markets. Thank you all.
Thank you, Amira. We continue now with the first introductory remarks by Mr. Saadallah Zaiter. Mr. Zaiter is the Economic Attaché at the Embassy of Lebanon in Brussels and the Mission of Lebanon to the European Union. Mr. Zaiter is also an instructor in finance and a PhD candidate in University Paris Dauphine. The floor is yours, Mr. Zaiter.
Thank you very much, Amira. Thank you, Celine. So first of all, I'll share my presentation to make sure that everything is working. Okay.
Yes, you can see it.
Okay. So it's really a great pleasure for me to be speaker on this webinar. I really believe it's a great initiative to share my experience and to reach all the Lebanese companies. So I'm the Economic Attaché to the Embassy of Lebanon in Belgium and Luxembourg, and to the Mission of Lebanon to the EU. So my presentation today will be divided in two parts. So the first part, I'll be speaking about I'll speak a little bit on EU-Lebanon trade relations, and I'll give an overview and general overview of the EU market. In the second part, I'll try to give some practical tips for Lebanese companies, so it might be helpful for them to export to the EU. So let's start with the first part. So as Amira mentioned, indeed, I really believe that the EU market represents a huge potential for Lebanon. It's like the world's largest trading bloc. It's a single market with more than 440 million citizens. We see the EU agri-food imports per year is around 140 billion. And when we look at the variation of EU agri-food imports from Lebanon between 2018 and 2019, we see that there's a huge increase, like by 9%. So, however, the main challenge is the non-compliance of the Lebanese product with the SPS and food regulations. So I believe Mr. Idris will speak more about the specific requirements of food and beverages, but this is like the main challenge we're facing. So, and in addition, Lebanon cannot export anything related to food of animal origin. So the main reason behind this is that the EU asks Lebanon to have a Lebanese competent authority that can supervise the production of these products. So it's been a while we're working on this file. I hope that we're gonna get somewhere, because I think we're like losing a lot of like export potential in terms of honey and even some let's say kibbeh or something. This is like very like niche markets. And we also have like other challenges. So the Lebanese products in general, like it's small volume and higher prices vis-a-vis other Mediterranean countries. So we're really facing a big competition from Turkey, from Egypt. And if we go more into the association agreement, we can see that in the association agreement, there's the rules of origin criteria. So the mentioned challenges plus the rules of origin criteria are really the main challenges that Lebanon is not making the most of the association agreement, which was signed in 2002 and entered into force in 2006. And this agreement grants Lebanon like almost all the Lebanese products to get into the EU market, like duty-free, like either like duty-free access or like preferential treatment. So I'll give you an example. So between 2006 and 2018, Lebanon didn't use like around 300 million of this agreement. So the main challenge is about rules of origin criteria. Sometimes it's a little bit technical. These certifications should be issued by the Lebanese custom authorities. But if the Lebanese companies have some questions about the rules of origin, they can always like contact the Ministry of Economy and Trade, especially Mrs. Dogan. She's the focal point on this file. She's the expert. She's been working on it like for like more than 5 years. So if we have like a general look about the EU goods trade with Lebanon, we can clearly see that the EU exports much more than what she imports from Lebanon. She exports around 6 billion to Lebanon and she imports around 500 million. So this trade deficit might be explained by different reasons. It's not only about the challenges we spoke about, it's also, it reflects the size of the EU economy compared to the size of the Lebanese economy. If you look at the trade numbers on the agri-food between EU and Lebanon, we can notice that the EU imports from Lebanon around these data are for 2019. So the EU imported from Lebanon around 98 million. So I still believe we have like a lot of like untapped potential, but this is good, but we can do much more. So when we look at the breakdown of the products imported from Lebanon, so we can see we have vegetables, fruits, fresh or dried. We have nuts, wine, etc. So you can also see the raw tobacco. It's something related to the Regie company. So it's not like from private companies to the EU. It's more Regie, which is the state-owned firm. So we can like just skip this part. I'll move into more. I think the companies they would like to hear more like practical tips to help them. I'll try to present some tools. I will start with the trade help desk tool, which I really believe, I really use it whenever a company contacts me for something. I really go onto this tool. So I'll speak about this tool, then I'll give you like a concrete example about the coffee. If you want to export like coffee from Lebanon to Belgium. So as this tool is free of charge, it's public access. And on this tool, you can find all the tariffs, the import requirements, statistics. You can see the trend of like some specific product. So this is how the tool web page looks like. You can, so so as I said, you can get information about the specific requirements to export to the EU for a specific product, and you can also see the tariff applied to Lebanon and to other countries as well. So if we take the example of nuts, so first of all, of coffee, excuse me. So first of all, you have to select the country where you want to export from. So in this case, it's going to be Lebanon. And then you have to select the destination country. So in our case, it's going to be Belgium, and the product code. So the product code, it's the HS code. And if you don't know what's the HS code of your product, you can just simply click on the find the product. And then when we click on view rates and requirements, you can see, for instance, first of all, the EU import duties. So you have two lines. So the second line is the tariff applied to Lebanon. And as you see, because thanks to the association agreement, it's 0%, while it's 7.5% on other countries. Then you also have a section called internal tax, which is the taxes applied, which is the taxes that Belgium applies to Lebanon. And here you can find the VAT and the excise tax. And then you can also find the product requirements. So here you have like all the product specific requirements for coffee to export from Lebanon to the EU. You can also have the import procedures. So really it guides you all the way along. I really believe this is really a very important tool. You can use it for any product, not only beverages and food. And you also have like contacts of like people. If you're having some questions, you can contact them directly. So as I said, the non-compliance with the SPS and food regulations. So actually, if you there's also the EU, they developed a portal which is called Rapid Alert System for Food and Feed, and actually it detects all the products that are exported to the EU, but they didn't respect the specific requirements. So when we select Lebanon, for instance, we see that the most common reason for rejection is the unauthorized use of rhodamine B in pickled turnips. Like really, we receive this like once a week. So this portal can give you an idea about what are the most common rejections for like your own product. I'll try to develop a little bit on a study that I did. I will send it to Celine later that she can share it with you. I just present briefly, very briefly, the main results, but then you can have access with around 100 pages. So in this study, actually, the idea was to rank all the Lebanese agri-food products from the most competitive to the least competitive to enter to the EU market. So we had around 426 agri-food products, and we ranked them based on 5 trade variables. I will not get into the details, but it's all explained in the study, in order to select top 20 products with the highest added value. So I'll give you an example like about the top 5 or 6 products. So you see it makes sense. It's wine, olive oil, fresh grapes, nuts, vegetable preparations. This is the first step of the study. And then we went further. For the next step, we did actually across countries comparison. Like let's take the example of wine. So for each, so what actually we did that we looked at the EU market, we looked how many competitors, it means how many countries are exporting wine to the EU. And then we also looked about the unit price per country. Let's say like the Chilean wine on average, which is the price getting into the EU market, and the net weight. So you can see, for instance, on this slide, you can see that Lebanon, that the average price, it's per kilogram. It's the Comtrade database. You can see it's around $8. So actually, for each of the 20 products that we selected, that we got, we did this kind of analysis, and it really helps you to get an overview about who are the main competitors. What should the price be? So I'll be happy to share it with Celine, and then if you're interested, you can ask Celine to receive it. Actually, according to the association agreement, so Lebanon, there's something called tariff rate quotas, which means that Lebanon can export. Let's take the example of table grapes. So the EU gave Lebanon around 6,000 tons per year. So Lebanon can export 6,000 tons of table grapes to the EU duty-free, 100% reduction of custom duty. Unfortunately, we see that Lebanon only use around 380 tons. And if you look at the other products, we see that we're not even using it. If you look at Egypt, they even exceeding their quotas. And I really believe that the main challenges here are only that the non-compliance with the EU regulations, but the vegetable and the fruits market, the main market for the Lebanese exports are the Arab countries. But I really think that the EU, the prices are higher in the EU. We have duty-free. We have a lot of quota. We have around 200,000 tons. We're only using like 400, which means like 0.2%. So it's a yearly basis. So I really believe we can do a lot of things on this topic. It's going to be more, as I said, that Lebanon, we have small volume of production. So I would say that to have cooperatives working, like a cooperative of farmers working together on specific product, I think that it helps a lot. So if you look at the table grapes, like the main company exporting to the EU is also like a cooperative which was funded by the EU by the program called PSDP. I think Olof, you can explain more about it. And I really think that this is gonna be this could be like the main like a business model that we should like follow in order to like export to the EU. So in the last slide, I just present some hyperlinks, informative websites. Actually, you can see the EU market trends on food and beverages. So I think Celine will send you the presentation. They are like really the main websites on the EU. You can see how is the market going, and you can have a lot of insights on it. So I'll remain available for any questions you have. And I hope this was a little useful. It was short, but I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you, Celine.
Thank you so much, Saadallah. Our second introductory remarks will be presented by Mr. Eulogio Montijano, who is currently the program manager at the European Commission in Beirut. Since 2002, he has been working in different delegations of the European Union, dealing with issues like economy, agriculture, rural development, and budget support. His previous posting was at the EU delegation to Cameroon. The floor is yours, Eulogio.
Thank you, Celine. Thank you, everybody. I hope you can hear me well. Let me start by thanking IDAL for inviting me, and first of all, for organizing this webinar. I think it's really all this series of webinars, which are extremely relevant to have today. Lebanon, as you very well know, is going through multiple crises, and the economic pressure that it puts on local companies, and particularly on the food sector, is really without precedent. So in this difficult context, it's important we look for ways to support local economic development and contributing to growth, creating more income and jobs. The current economic situation in Lebanon calls for an unprecedented and combined effort to enhance local production and to develop its export potential. So in the EU, we believe that Lebanon has untapped potential, and that much more can be done to help increase the national economy and to allow everyone to have decent living conditions. So promoting trade and support to local economy are therefore important priorities for the EU in Lebanon, as I will try to demonstrate. But let me start with just recalling the framework of our relationship, which has been touched already by Saadallah, which is the EU-Lebanon Association Agreement, which is the legal basis of the partnership with the EU. And I would say this agreement calls for three things. First of all, is a framework for political dialogue. Second is institute the conditions for a gradual establishment of a free trade area. And third, it called for the promotion of cooperation between the parties in different areas. So on the free trade area, what does it mean? I think Saadallah already said it, but let me just repeat quickly. It means that import into the European market of products originating in Lebanon shall be allowed to enter without custom duties or any other similar charge, with a few exceptions that I will mention. But basically, this applied to the immense majority of products. And at the same time, custom duties and charges that were applied before the signature of the agreement to imports into Lebanon of products originating in the EU would be progressively abolished, and for which a transitional period of 12 years was established. And after this 12 years, which have already passed, in principle, there should be no more duties, with again some exception. So as a consequence, today we can say that virtually there are no EU custom barriers to Lebanese agri-food products. And I would say there are two exceptions, which is sugar and wine. And then there are other cases, as also Saadallah had mentioned, for a limited number of products, there are what we call trade-related quotas. But even these quotas, which is the maximum amount that you can export duty-free, these quotas, for some of the products, they have annual increases. So it means that every year the quota gets bigger and bigger. So eventually we get to a point where it's above the productive capacity of Lebanon. So it's not really a problem. For example, this is the case for potatoes, tomatoes, and table grapes. The quota is increasing every year. What is also interesting to remark, and it's already been mentioned, is that none of these quotas have ever been reached. by Lebanon. So this is one of the really opportunities, or I would say even missed opportunities, that the association agreement is offering to Lebanon, not fully utilized because of either insufficient productive capacity, because of lack of compliance with safety regulation, or others. And I think this should be one of the topic of discussion more in detail here today. Now, going to the cooperation, to the promotion of cooperation between the EU and Lebanon, as the association agreement calling for. During the period, the last programming period of the EU was 2016-2020, so it's ending now. So for this period, the EU and Lebanon identify what we call partnership priorities. And these are the basis of our cooperation. There are very widely, there are 5 priorities, but I want to highlight one of them, which we call fostering growth and job opportunities. And under this very wide cooperation area, there are several sub-areas where the EU has been supporting the private sector, mostly in agriculture, in industry, infrastructure, energy, waste management, conservation, and other sectors as well. So this has been done in basically two main ways. One is by providing direct support to Lebanese MSMEs, micro, small, medium enterprises, in order to increase their competitiveness. And this in different sectors, again, agribusiness, one of them, manufacturing, etc. And the other way also by engaging with the government in supporting a more structural reform, aiming to improve business environment, legal, regulatory framework, etc., which are very much required to improve the competitiveness of Lebanese economy. This last type of cooperation, I have to say, has not always delivered the intended result. I think you will agree with me that there's ample room for improvement. I just want to recall that according to the World Bank, Lebanon is in the 143rd position according to the Ease of Doing Business ranking. So there is plenty of room for improvement here, and we look forward to continue cooperating with the government in this sense. The European Union has the European Commission issued a communication in where the approach to supporting private sector is articulated. It's called the stronger role of the private sector in achieving inclusive and sustainable growth in developing countries. Very long title, very substantial communication launched in 2014. Basically recognizes the fundamental role the private sector plays in economic development, job creation, fight against poverty, innovation, towards a more inclusive green economy. And it proposes a strategic framework for the strengthening of this role. And I have to say, it has a very strong focus on employment creation and inclusiveness and in poverty reduction. So let me maybe go into concrete examples of a project that we have been supporting here. Maybe start with the private sector development program, a 15 million euro program implemented by Expertise France, who have been working on enhancing the productivity and competitiveness of MSMEs along agriculture and wood processing value chains. We did that by promoting their association so they can be more efficient, helping increase their access to market, creating and sustaining jobs as a result of more sales, etc. We had, this project has been running for about 3.5 years. Part of it has already ended, part of the component. There's a component which is still being extended actually. And there have been successful experiences through farmer certification and market access, where we have managed to promote export of table grapes and cherries to some European market. The program also had a component which facilitate access to finance. And under this component, more than 600 MSMEs had access to a total of over $2.2 million of loans. Another example could be the credit for agriculture and rural development, CARD program, which was implemented by Kafalat up to April 2019, which also facilitated access to credit to SMEs in the agricultural sector by issuing guarantees. And under this project, there was 359 guarantees issued for a total of 37 million euros of loans. More recently, we have just, we are actually in the process of launching a technical assistance facility to support private sector in Lebanon. We are, in fact, under the inception phase for this project, and due to the COVID-19, the inception phase has been extended for a few additional months. This facility will provide technical assistance to support the productive industry sector by focusing directly on innovation and technology transfer, and also on trade and market access through the mobilization of national and international experts. So this will run for 2 years, and you will start hearing about it in coming weeks or months, depending how soon the experts are able to come back to Lebanon. And then we have a big list of products which are regional. The projects that I mentioned so far are limited to Lebanon, but in fact, most of our projects supporting private sector, I don't know why they are regional. They have a regional dimension, and Lebanon is included. Just to give you some of them, Msme, enhancing business support organization and business networks in the southern neighborhood, which aim at promoting a Mediterranean business ecosystem by boosting investment and job creation. And it does that through strengthening the capacity of business support organization, so they can improve the services they provide to SMEs, and also they can develop linkages between them, between the countries of the region and with the counterpart in the EU. Currently, Msme has been working on a business country desk. This is a platform which will aggregate relevant information for companies who wish to import and export to the EU and across the region. And this platform is foreseen to be launched by the end of this year. So they're still working on it. That's why you probably haven't heard about it. And this program is coordinated by BusinessNet, which is a union of Mediterranean Confederation of Enterprises, who are in a consortium of 6 partners. We have also the Next Society program managed by Anima Investment Network, with also Veritech and other partners, which it's specifically developed innovation ecosystem. And they did something interesting recently. They have launched the first innovation scoreboard, specific for Southern Mediterranean countries. It's composed of 78 indicators that measure the level of innovation in the region and in each country. Another thing they did is, last year they did a technology transfer mission to Lebanon. So they map and they assess the innovation ecosystem in quite the amount of detail. And they have developed a pilot mechanism of technology transfer acceleration in 5 Lebanese universities to support research valorization. Then let me go to the EBRD, although we have Huda with us, we'll talk about it more, but there's a trade facilitation program who had been providing guarantee and cash facilities to partner banks for financing on foreign trade transactions, importing and exporting. And EBRD has signed trade facilitation program facilities with 7 partner banks in Lebanon. And since the beginning of the operation in March 2018, they have financed 294 foreign trade transactions for a total of 443 million euros. And this is mainly to small and medium-sized enterprise, and though it also includes some larger oil deals. In fact, we can say that EBRD is currently the only international financial institution who has been supporting trade finance in Lebanon these days. Although at the same time, we must say that the program has been very much affected by the current liquidity crisis, and there's a lot of, there have been a substantial reduction in the number of demands for guarantees, obviously, because there are less credit. And there are other projects which are in the pipeline that, let me just mention one that we're working on promoting cluster development and cluster cooperation. And it will strengthen innovation actors like tech hubs, accelerator, incubator, etc., and link them also across the region and with EU peers. So again, you will hear about that hopefully in the coming months. Most of these projects, actually all of them except the EBRD, are financed through grants. And this is the traditional way that the EU had of financing development cooperation through grants. Basically, grant is subsidy that you don't have to pay back. But recently, the EU has been also very active in blending the EU grant with other sources of development finance. And this has proved to be a very successful way to increase access to finance, for example, through guarantee facilities and through microfinance funds. And this is what the European Investment Plan is all about. The EIP is a huge investment launched in 2017, about 4.6 billion euro, for African and neighborhood country, has two windows, hoping to mobilize investment of up to 47 billion euro. And this will be done by two things: guarantees and blending. Guarantees by sharing the risk, so private investor can finance entrepreneur and development project that otherwise they will not be very willing to invest, to finance. And blending, which covers part of the cost of a development project, so to help it get it off the ground and attract other investors, whether private or public. This is the first pillar of the European Investment Plan, the financing. And there's also a second pillar consisting of technical assistance to help develop a project, bankable project, and also assist regulatory and policy making. And there's a third pillar of policy dialogue and reform in order to improve the investment climate and the business environment. So let me explain also an example of what the European Investment Plan can finance or is actually financing. And there is the EU Initiative for Financial Inclusion. This is very relevant to this region, to the Mena region, because the Mena region has one of the lowest level of financial inclusion in the world. This is according to a very recent report by the IMF. The level of financial inclusion is between 7% and 9%, even lower than sub-Saharan Africa, which was quite a surprise to me. So this initiative for financial inclusion provides funding to micro, small, and medium enterprise, whereby the European Commission blends its grant with loans coming from the four leading European finance institutions. And these are the European Investment Bank, the EBRD, again, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, KfW, the German Development Bank, and the Agence Française de Développement, AFD. And the total budget of this initiative is 1.5 billion, with the European Commission contributing 150 million euro. So there are 5 at the moment complementary programs under this initiative, of which Lebanon has already started benefiting from. I'll go very quickly through them. The first one is the SANAD microfinances and microfinancing and micro enterprises, which is managed by KfW, and is providing microfinance through local financial institutions as well as capacity building. In Lebanon, so far, there are $117.5 million already committed. And out of this, 75.1 has been disbursed. This is at the end of 2019, through 7 local financial institutions, including banks, and also 2 microfinance institutions, Al-Mashmoua and Vitas, Lebanon. And just to say that the average size of loans under this project is about $6,400. So this gives you an idea that this is really a project working on microfinance and focusing on very small enterprises. So overall, the project, not only for Lebanon, for all the region, estimate that it has facilitated the creation of almost 70,000 jobs region. The severe economic crisis that's affecting Lebanon is unfortunately impacting also a lot this project, and the approved deal in 2019, all the approved deal had to be put on hold. So for the time being, it's only the TA facility that is continuing to work, and we are hopeful. We are hoping that the situation could improve, so activities will resume. There's also under the same financial inclusion facility, a risk capital facility managed by the European Investment Bank. And again, here is the aiming is to provide financing to MSMEs in the area by pooling private and public resources through a risk capital instrument to finance private equity and venture capital funds and microfinance institutions. So under this contract, under this program, sorry, EIB has signed a contract with, again, with Vitas in last November, for about 4.5 million euro, and which is expected to benefit 12,000 final beneficiaries. This will include micro enterprises in rural areas, 40% of women, 34% of youth. Another one is the Mena SME Guarantee Fund, managed by AFD. A bit the same idea is aimed to providing guarantee funds to cover eventual losses of local banks who are lending to MSMEs. So it's through a setup of risk-sharing facilities complemented with credit lines and technical assistance. And this facility was presented in April 2019 by Kafalat at the 4th International Mena Guarantee Forum, hosted by Kafalat in Beirut. There are several transactions already signed in 2019, but not yet materialized for Lebanon. The fourth project under this facility is the small business support by BRD that I would not mention because I think we have Huda here, Huda Saeed, principal manager of this program for Lebanon, and she will be talking about it. And the last but not least is the MSME financial inclusion, also Summit MSME financial inclusion by EBRD as well, which aim at providing financial inclusion for MSMEs in the region by blending EBRD investments with EU grants, up to the amount of 27 million euros for the EU, although there were possible discussion of increase. The participating institution in Lebanon is SGBL, and as a senior loan, 50 million euro was signed in 2018. And this will enable SGBL to increase the availability of medium-term funding for small and medium-sized enterprises, which remain definitely underserved. So this is a bit the panorama. It's certainly not an exhaustive list of the different programs and interventions that the EU is financing in support of private sector development. As you have seen, many of these programs will become operational in coming months. Others are also affected by the current liquidity crisis, and others are under discussion and cannot yet be discussed, but there's much more coming up. And now, as the EU enter a new programming phase, we have to think about what we're going to be doing in the next phase from 2021 to 2027. So we are embarking in this reflection on what should be the new priorities for this new phase. And we will certainly take into account the severity of the current economic situation with different crises overlapping each other, the need to promote a more balanced trade relationship between Lebanon and the European Union. So in this sense, the opportunities provided by the joint association agreement and that Mrs. Abdallah was referring to are real, and we believe they should be exploited. That's why we are really happy to of this webinar organized by IDAL. And thank you for your attention, and my apologies if I have exceeded a bit my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lujo, for this presentation. And now we move to our first intervention by Mr. Atif Idris. He's a food scientist, industrialist, and biodevelopment expert, and the CEO of MEFOSA SAL. Prior to that, he was president of the Association of Food Scientists and Technologists and the founding president of the Syndicate of Lebanese Food Industries. For 25 years, he was the chairman and general manager of a major food brand in Lebanon, Conserve Modern Shtura. The floor is yours, Mr. Atif. We cannot hear you. Sorry, but we cannot hear you, Atif. No, we can't hear you. Mr. Atif? Okay, so now it says you're connecting to audio. No, also we cannot hear you. Yes, yes, yes. But it's very far. It's very far. I don't know. There's something wrong with the audio. Now we can't hear you. I'm sorry. We can't hear you. Hello? Yeah, but it's still like very far, the voice. We can't hear you well. Hello?
Is that better at all?
Yes, now it's very good.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Celine, and thank you all at IDAL. It's an opportunity to be here. I'm privileged to present to you a little bit of our notes on how to address EU exports and why Lebanon has been privileged with the accession and association, with the association agreement, I'm sorry. I've witnessed the agreement since 1994, and Mifosa is a company that addresses food safety within that agreement, and we've been working on that protocol for some time. If we can put the presentation, I'm going to address why export to EU and why Lebanon ratified the agreement. I'm going to address why food safety laws are at the core of the association agreement, and why the food security and safety issues that we have experienced in Lebanon has been hindering our market access. I'm also going to address in the slide after how the evaluation of Lebanese EU exports have been going ahead with our opportunities in the EU market. And I'm going to present a little bit why Mifosa has a different edge, particularly when we talk on technologies that can help companies address the specifics of the compliance with EU requirements. And there will be some conclusions and recommendations. I will not go a lot through the specifics on the exports of the EU, because Mr. Mazra'ani presented some of these particulars in his presentation. But there are, of course, a lot of opportunities for Lebanese exporters and for Lebanese agribusinesses and for the Lebanese economy in general to address its EU opportunities. Some of them are relevant to open markets, to the proximity of the markets, to the large population in the EU, but of course there are a lot of incentives that have been offered through the last years, through the last decades, if you wish, in addressing industry modernization programs, in addressing agriculture modernization programs, and in addressing opportunities between Lebanon and the EU in general. A lot of it is very important for the Lebanese community itself, for our security, for our safety, and for the safety of our economy. And once we're able to address these opportunities in realistic terms, we're able to better address why the culture of food safety is so important, not only to our European partners and exporters, but to our local community, to our local clients in this country. Anyway, the European Parliament has addressed a lot of the food safety issues. And again, here, these were presented by Mr. Mazrani, and I won't go into the details of all these food safety and related laws. But the compliance of the laws helped us to better understand the rapid alert system and better understand how we can address food safety with the laws that are at hand. These laws are not only pertinent to Europe. These are global laws that have been passed by the World Trade Organization. Our agreement with Euromed, our Euromed agreement and our ratification of food safety EU laws is part of a larger requirement of food safety that regulates trade not only with Europe but with other parts of the world. And if we address some of the issues that the Lebanese exports have been facing with EU partners, some of it is related to mycotoxins in nuts and nut products. We have witnessed problems of salmonella in tahini. We have witnessed problems of cadmium and sometimes metal fragments in glass jars. A lot of the food issues are not only related to the product, the food itself, but sometimes to the package or to the label or to the other components that constitute a product under export. So what are the food safety and security issues, and why has Lebanon not been able or successful enough to address all these issues? Some of the impediments to market access in Europe are related to our weak standardization and testing and inspection, are related to inadequate legal frameworks that we are unable to make sure they are in conformity, or sometimes that are in practice in our institutions, in our public or private institutions, in our even company institutions. And here, lack of enforcement of regulations are also at core. But we see a lot of other issues in bureaucracy, in vague institutional frameworks, in dilution of ministries and agencies. Our law of compliance is still under ratification because of Lebanese internal issues. But also our public-private partnerships are still lacking in or resisting some of the changes that we need to address in addressing exports to Europe. Here again, we need to better understand that WTO and Euromed require a central food safety agency, and some of these issues, once finalized, will help the different ministries to harmonize on the exports and the requirements of compliance. We have a food safety agency, but unfortunately till now, this agency that is not functioning because we have not assigned all the scientists that needs to be there. And some of the scientists are not there because of sectarian or religious issues and not because of science. And here we need to understand that it is at core that we address the science of food safety. So the evaluation of a Lebanese EU association agreement might be, in this particular study was conducted until 2006 or 2007. And we reviewed some of the SPS and TBT regulations that were required for compliance. SPS is sanitary and phytosanitary measures. TBT are related to food contact surfaces. And all these technical names have special laws or agreements that are that we have certified as a Lebanese community to comply with in our exports to our European partners.
Atif, I just
Yes.
have, I can see still the first slide of your presentation. Are you going through it? Because when you're sharing the screen, we only see the first slide. If you want to move through it while you're talking.
You mean the slides are not changing?
Yeah, the slides are not changing. We just see the first slide.
Okay, let me make sure of where I'm in slide number 12 now.
Yeah, please, can you go down with it?
Yeah, let's make sure we're going with the whole slides.
Okay. Anyways, we will share all the presentation with the attendees, all the attendees that send us an email. But it's good from now on that whenever you're presenting, that you also change the slides.
Okay, I'm sorry for that mispresentation. But how about now? Do you see the slide on Lebanon-EU trade relations?
Yes, now we see it. Yes.
Okay, this is slide number 12. I'll go very quickly back to the different slides. So you have just a very quick review. This is the slide that I started, why export to the EU. We reviewed some of the food safety and EU laws. We reviewed some of the risks that are being reported about Lebanese exports, and some of these risks are related to specific incidents that we have witnessed in the last period. I reviewed why the impediments in our food safety system are not helping us move ahead. I'm not going to go through the details. This is why our fragmented food safety system is still hindering some of our market access. And we have more than 9 agencies that are not cooperating and coordinating with one another. And we need to create our food safety system so that it is compliant. I reviewed a little bit the SPS and TBT, and I reached here the slides of the gap between Lebanese and EU markets. These were updated by Mr. Mazrani all the way to 2019. My presentation goes to 2017. We believe that quotas we've lost in our years of non-compliance are worth billions of dollars. One item.
Can you just go in full screen, please? Full screen mode, so that they're able to see better the slides.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So here you see the trade deficit between Lebanese exports and EU imports into Lebanon. The deficit between the opportunities of trade with the EU in our consultancy expertise is in billions of dollars. Take an example alone of potatoes. Lebanon ratified the agreement with the EU on the understanding that we'll be able to export 45,000 tons of potatoes from Akkar. And this crop alone has not been achieved even in limited quantities. And if we compute since 1994 to date, you realize our opportunity loss in that market. So anyway, to go back, there are trade flow imbalances that we need to address. Some of these trade flow imbalances are related to our inability to address the structural changes that were suggested in the Industrial Modernization Program or in the APP and ADP. The APP is the agricultural policy, and the ADP is the agricultural development programs. And these programs need visitation. And since we have the EU commercial attaché here, Mr. Montigiano, I hope that sometime we will take the opportunity to review why these projects were not implemented, and if it is only Lebanese concerns or there are other concerns that are there. Here I just included this slide to impress upon you that some of the problems are not related only to our exports to EU, but to our exports to the US. The issue of salmonellosis in the export to the US has prevented one of the niche products to enter the American market, and salmonella is at core, and our inability in Lebanon to understand that the issue is sometimes common between different countries is something that we need to address. The food laws are changing all over the world. The European Food Safety Authority, as well as the FDA, and in your last 3 presentations, you reviewed why preventive food safety is so crucial to our exports. And the FSMA, a new FDA in the US, is something similar to what EFSA is requiring in our compliance with predictive or risk analysis in food safety. Although all the information is available on EU websites and even on our Lebanon. Yeah.
Are we still on slide 12 or you moved?
No, I'm on 16 now.
Because it's still now slide 12 on our screen.
Okay, I'll go to.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is it moving?
So I'm reloading the slides so that the computer is addressing them one by one. And I'm sorry for that again. Slide 16.
If you can just put it full screen mode, and then yes, you can just click enter and then it goes.
Yeah. So I'm on 15 now. Can you see me? Well, is that accessible standards?
It's still slide 12 and it's not full screen mode.
اطلع حتى على الهيدا screen mode. نحتاج على هيدي أحيانا. Can you see standards, accessible standards now?
Yes, but not full screen mode. So it's the slide should be bigger, should take the whole screen.
Yeah, but there is somehow, if I put the full screen, it's not moving. Let's try it again. Is it, I'm on slide 16 now, accessible standards. So the standards, these are taken from the Ministry of Economy, and the links are there, and we need to understand why these links sometimes are not being appreciated by the industry. If I move to slide 17, and I hope you can see what our comparative edge in MIFOSA is. Sometimes
Atif,
yeah.
Can you click on enable editing up in yellow? Enable editing.
Enable editing. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And then, yes, exactly. Okay. Great. Now we can see it full screen.
Okay.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to convey to everybody, particularly to our European guests, is that a lot of the information has been revealed. We have been training on them, but the corrective action is not only in allowing access to these standards, but also on training to them with the new startup companies. And this is what we do in Mifosa. And we help our clients address the specifics of sampling, the specifics of measurement, sometimes the specifics of calibration. A lot of our farmers, when they want to test for organic stuff, they're unfortunately addressing labs outside the country, and we need to support our local labs, particularly that the EU has supplied a lot of technologies to different universities that are not put in conjunction with the private sector needs. Here again, we address also validation of tests. The new requirements of EU are not only scientific in nature, as the attaché mentioned, a lot of the requirements are issues relevant to our ability to address minority groups or address environmental issues or even address public-private partnership. So here again, Mifosa supports a lot of issues related to supply chain because a lot of the ingredients that are in the food industry that are re-exported to Europe must come from countries that have ratified EU standards. The Jordanians or the Egyptians are part of our export compliance engagements, and sometimes we need to address their farmers to comply with the standards that we are looking at. And we need, of course, to work with sustainable development practices and public-private partnerships. A lot of these programs are what the EU looks for, not in the ISO format, but in the specific format that are equivalent to EU requirements. Here again, looking at different countries and making sure that they are in compliance with EU requirements at what Mifosa does, and understanding European standards and norms is something that we support, particularly with small and medium-sized enterprises. A lot of the enterprises here might have developed a product with US requirements and US aid support, but if they want to address EU specifics, they have to comply with these specifics. We try to get the Ministry of Industry to understand all these variables, because the variables are sometimes part of our compliance scheme that we have developed with the Syndicate of Food Industries. But understanding that COLIBAC, the Accreditation Council of Lebanon, is something that needs to look at all these standards. We need to get our geographic designations at core, and of course, looking at the environmental management systems that are part of the EU requirements in addressing markets and in making sure our bioeconomy is fully compliant with the new requirements that the EU are putting forward, is what Mifosa is doing all the time. Here again, we work in regional parts of Lebanon, in remote areas, in Akkar, in the south. Recently, we have developed a scheme for the exporters and the Zahri Chamber of Commerce to better identify the farmers, because up to this moment, our farmers do not have a registrar of sorts. And until we need to do the traceability tests that are required by EU exports, we are unable to sometimes comply with Euro 1 requirements. The Euro 1 requirement stipulates we address what ingredient is coming from what complying country. And this needs a lot of traceability technologies that we provide. And of course, we help industry to address the specifics of compliance at the shop level, the Syndicate of Food Industries was privileged with a vocational school in Kabylias that helps do heat penetration curves, that help train on specifics. To conclude, there are obstacles to Europe, but these obstacles are not unsurmountable. We support and we transport and we train on reforms in canneries, in food industry, and export houses. But we also do that with government officials, with Larry, with IRI, with CNRS, where we present to them and we support with them some of the requirements of compliance. Finally, there are a lot of recommendations that we can pass, essentially revisiting the association agreement, making sure it is a little bit up to date with the SPS TBT changes that are occurring, and getting the Ministry of Industry and Ministry of Economy to support that through their vocational schools is what we're trying to do. And sometimes finding the right partner in Europe to do the import and support the scheme is at the core of what we could be doing together. This is my presentation, and I thank you for the opportunity. And we'll be sending the PowerPoint to Celine, and we're there to support any specific requirements and follow up on questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Atif, for the presentation. Now we move to Mr. Toufiq Kourbawi. He's the agency director at Merit Shipping SAL and the logistics and supply chain consultant. Prior to that, he was the group operations and logistics director for a regional fresh produce provider in Kuwait. He also held key positions at Sultan Center or TSC supermarkets in Kuwait, and was for more than 10 years a director at Agility Logistics in Kuwait. The floor is yours, Toufiq.
Thank you. Can you hear me, first of all, everyone? Checking. Okay. Thank you. Celine, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Celine. Thank you, Atif, for this really good presentation. And I think we can do a lot of work together, especially on certifications. I will go ahead and share my screen. And while I do that, I will stop the video.
It seems the voice is cutting a little bit. I don't know why. Can you unmute?
Yes.
It's, yeah.
Are you okay now? Are you okay now?
No, it's cutting. It's cutting all the time.
Let me do something else. 1 second. Hello?
Hello. Yes. Can you please talk?
You can hear me better now?
No, it's still the same.
Oh God. I guess. Hello. I'm trying again.
Yeah, it's still, there's something weird whenever you're talking. It's cutting.
Okay. Let me. Hello. Now.
No, it's still not working well.
This is annoying. Sorry.
You should put on the mic same as system on the right.
Mic same as system on the right. Yeah, same. Can you hear me now?
It's still like we can hear you, but it's annoying, you know.
Yeah.
It's
I do not want to annoy you for sure. Let me.
Celine, يمكن شوي عم بخشخش بس for the most part it's okay, I think, no?
Okay.
Okay, I stopped the video. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Fine. Let me start again, and let me share my screen. And okay, so I guess I go here and I go here. What am I sharing now? Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can see it very well.
Thank you. Let me go back. All right. First of all, thank you again. Thank you, Celine. Thank you for everybody. I hope you hear me now for good, once and for good. I'm representing Sema CGM, who has a long history of empowering Lebanon. And as we know, in today's environment, we believe that our role is as important as ever, especially with the trade imbalances that have historically characterized our economy. We at Sema believe that moving forward, we must do what we do best, exporting Lebanese goods to the world, thus this seminar. Allow me to start quickly by giving a few numbers about Sema to show you who we really are in the world. Sema, CGM, basically, we have 110,000 employees around the world, more than 285 shipping lines. A lot of those lines serve Lebanon. They serve Beirut port, Tripoli port, along with other regional locations and ports. In Lebanon, we are the first shipping company right now. We have 2 ports of call. I mentioned Tripoli, 2 offices, Beirut and Tripoli. We have 12 weekly calls or 12 weekly vessels arriving to Beirut. We have the first dry port in the country. It's located in Ta'nail and the Bekaa. And we basically have 5,000 square meters of storage space in the Tripoli container area. This is Sema CGM in a nutshell. And I would like to share with you right now some export trends over the last 6 months. Those numbers are in TEUs or 20-foot equivalent unit. And as we see, the imports have dipped tremendously compared to last year's first 6 months. They have dipped by more than 50%, whilst the exports are maintaining actually. And we can see at the end, towards May and June now, an increase in the trend, which is foreseeable for the years to come. Basically, exports, I heard some experts saying that we are at less than 30% of our export capacity. That's why at Sema CGM we are preparing to play our part in helping and in sustaining the export business from Lebanon. The supply and value chains have actually been defined and redefined over the years. This is the basic supply chain model, the one that you see on the screen in front of you. Our talk will be mainly about the highlighted area in red, from the origin, which is Lebanon, to the export. And we will not talk about the receiving end or the European customs clearance and warehousing. We just talk about this part, which is what we are here to do today. Export activities include many elements and sub-activities. I have listed it here as a part of the checklist. I call it the export checklist. And that way we can remember any part, or we do not forget any part. And we will talk a little bit about the first 3 elements very quickly, a few minutes, and we will focus a little bit more on number 4 and 5, which are the cold chain and the shipper or the shipping lines. First of all, let's talk a little bit about the documentation needs as far as the export is concerned. Exports and imports documentation are usually very similar with some differences. If you look at the left side of the screen, you will look at the basic document needed for any kind of export, from the company registration to the financial register from MOF. It is interesting to note that if somebody wants to export for the first time, let's say I want to export some products for the first time, I don't need to have the first time a financial register number. I don't need to have مثل ما بيقولوا رقم وزارة المالية. They will give an exception to export for the first time, just for you to know. It's interesting, actually. You need to have the status from NSSF, براءة الذمة. All those are the legal document that you need to have in order to export anything from Lebanon. On the right side are more of the documentation that is needed specifically for food and beverage export. And depending on the product itself, you can go to the ministry that is appropriate, as you can see on the right side. But before starting any export operation, we actually need to know the specifics about what we are exporting. In the last few presentations, we have talked, my colleagues have talked about the regulations, about the EU facilitation of the product. They mentioned a lot the grapes that is to export, our quota that we are not achieving. So now, what are the products that are basically we need to ship? We need to know it very well, and we need to know what are the temperature, packaging requirements, and what is the shelf life. If you see here, this is just an indicative table to give you an idea of the disparity between the products and between how they are stored, how they are packaged, and how long they last, basically. You see the grapes can last 150 days, the cherries 14 to 21 days. The storage temperature vary also, and EU regulation also vary depending on the packaging that we use to send the product. I'm not a real expert in all the regulation, EU regulation, so this is just a quick reminder table about what are the needs for EU to export to the EU. We have 3 levels of regulation, but you have always, and correct me if I'm wrong, Atif and everybody, but you have always to bear in mind that certification is not something that happens overnight. You will need up to 1 year to get certified on the products that you are planning to sell to the EU. So this is something very important to keep in mind. If you look at the screen, you have 3 levels. The basic, which are basically the EU or the UK requirements. The advanced, which are preferable to have, which is like the Global GAP, like the Global Food Safety Initiative, and you definitely need to have a documented management system in order to show that you are meeting the export regulation requirements. And sometimes you have very specific regulations depending on the retailer, depending on some of the retailers in the EU, like the packaging, the labeling on the product, the acidity. A lot of the time they tell you we need an acidity of a certain level with a pH of a certain level for a product. So all those have to be taken into account before we start exporting, or before we start thinking about exporting to the EU. We have talked about the first 3 elements, 1, 2, 3. If you can see, one of them is the documents needed, 2 are the product's characteristics, and now the regulations for export. We will discuss now the other side of the coin, if you wish, the logistics of exporting food products. Move forward. We'll define, first of all, let's define what a cold chain is. A cold chain is a temperature controlled supply chain. The temperature control should not be broken at any time, or it jeopardizes the product integrity. I'm showing here a small example, Häagen-Dazs. You all know Häagen-Dazs ice cream. Their cold chain is very, very specific, actually. When you go buy the ice cream in the store or supermarket, it has to be between -1 or 0 degrees, or a little less than that, so you can eat it and enjoy it. But before it reaches that fridge at the supermarket, there has to be some other temperature range. Basically, it has to be at -16, reaching the store to allow for this rise in temperature so it doesn't get damaged. And before it is at -16, it has to be transported in a truck. The truck has to be at -21, -22 in order to keep room for that the rise in temperature. And actually, Häagen-Dazs storage requirement for the ice cream is the most stringent in the world. They require a -32 degree warehouse to be for the ice cream, because it's made of fresh cream, full fat, most of it. And if the temperature drops or changes drastically, the product will get damaged. So this is the cold chain definition. You see it in front of you. It is basically controlling throughout, even at customs formalities. You have to really control the cold chain. The temperature should not change, or you risk damaging the product. I will focus in the next few slides on 3 areas: the warehousing at origin, the value-added services, and the shipping. Warehouses that store food or that are supposed to store food are called food grade warehouses. Why are they called food grade warehouses? Because of some principles and some types. Actually, most of the types of food warehouses are either cold or frozen. Dry is very rare, depending on the country where they are, but mainly air conditioned, chilled, or refrigerated. The warehouse has to be sanitized. It has to be no leaks, no standing water. It has to be totally sanitized. There should be no cleaning agents or pesticides or other chemicals in the vicinity. And basically, it has to be almost totally closed without any leaks in the warehouse. What are the main principles of a food grade warehouse? I've listed a few here. There are many, actually. First of all, the key is to be able to train your staff and your employees to train them properly to be sanitary, to clean their hands, to wear their overalls. Pest control is another important part. It's actually the most important part. Be able to control the pest, and there are different ways of doing it. Sanitation and cleaning schedule. And you should be able to trace the lots. Lots basically are unique numbers assigned to every product depending on the production date and the production location and basically the raw material that comes into that production. It's very important to trace lots to be able to do any recall at any point of time. As the statistics show, at the beginning, Mr. Zaiter, I think, showed that that our quota, for example, in shipping or exporting grapes is 6,000 tons, and we are only exporting 387 tons right now. The reason being, 400, sorry. And the reason being right now is because maybe we're not adhering to the standard or to the regulations. So we need to look into it. This is what I'm showing you here right now is what we call the Sega packing station that will be operational in July 2021 in Ta'nayel. It is our flagship project, and it is a very important part of the cold chain. This facility we started the construction, and it is actually right next to the dry port that I mentioned previously in one of the slides. We realized actually that this was one of the missing links in the export chain between the farmer and between the farmer, the exporter, and Europe, basically. And we needed to do something about it. And this facility will allow for basically storing the fresh produce, fresh fruits, the grapes, the cherries, storing it, doing some transformation on it, doing conditioning, and doing the right packaging for these products before we ship them to the EU. Again, this should be opened on July 2021. Finally, we have looked at all the origin parts of the cold chain. We looked at the warehouse. We looked actually at the value-added service. Now we will be looking a little bit at the shipping side. It is very important to choose the proper freight mode. Cost is an important element, but speed of delivery is also an important element. For example, if products have a very short shelf life, you should consider sending them by air freight, depending on the transit time. We used to send a lot of leafy vegetables to the Gulf via air freight, but the other vegetables like potatoes, like tomatoes, and even fruits we used to send by containers, by sea freight. Depending on the product, you need to be able to look at how you will send what freight mode you will use. You can have a combination between cost and speed. That's what we call the multimodal or intermodal shipping. Air sea, you can send it by air the first leg, and then by sea, or by sea and then by air, depending on the origin and the destination. What's very important today is the environmental impact of the supply chain. And I think there are regulations also limiting the carbon footprint going into Europe before you're able to send those products into Europe. Let us talk about the sea freight in the next two slides. Surprise, surprise. We have to make the right choice. Choosing the right sea freight or the right freight, freight company is critical for the business. You need to look at different factors. The equipment availability, here I'm listing some of the container sizes and the types, not all of them, of course. The transit time, number of days from the origin to destination. A lot of the time, you have something called the transshipment at, let's say, at Malta, at other ports. And when you have a lot of transshipment, sometimes the ports are congested, and you have a delay in your shipping. And then the number of calls basically the vessel arriving to the port per trade lane, per origin destination. I would compare it to an airline ticket. When you want to fly to Paris, for example, or any other place, you'd pick the airline that has more flights during the week, and you will not pick an airline that has one flight per week because you don't have a lot of choice to come back. So you pick an airline that has a higher number of flights per week, and this is the same kind of choice you will make during when you choose the sea freight. The cost and payment terms, of course, we need to look at it. The online tracking, also, a lot of companies have online tracking for the shipment, a lot of them. But do they really have real-time tracking? Online tracking means that you say that you loaded the container at this port, and it should be on the vessel, and it should arrive at this destination at this time. Those are should, not real. So you have real-time tracking. A lot of Sega have a solution called TrackSense that allows you to track real-time the container location wherever it is in the world. So this is also an added value. Basically, it's an added value. Why? Because you have full visibility of your cold chain. Again, you have to look at the right freight forwarder. You have the proper, they give you the proper solution. They give you proper inland transport. And finally, at the insurance. Insurance is becoming more and more and more important these days, especially with what's going on, especially there are delays, cancellations because of COVID-19. Let's say you're sending a container full of apples somewhere, and then it gets delayed, and the apples, you incur a high cost because it's a reefer. You have to plug it somewhere. So you have to pay a lot of money for it. So the insurance will cover you for that. So those are the, if you wish, what you need to look at when you choose your sea freight partner. When shipping the product, you need to make sure that you're shipping it safely. At Msme, we have a number of, and actually we have invested over the years in a lot of innovation and new technologies. We have a number of reefer containers that are different depending on the product, the humidity, the temperature, the size of the container, the height, the width. Yeah, basically, it differs depending on the product that you're shipping. Another innovation that was made recently, a couple of years ago, is the Reflex, which is basically an advanced solution for the transport of liquid. It will allow exporters to ship liquid product in bulk and safely, and then they will be repackaged at the destination if they wish to. Most importantly, when thinking about safety, food safety, when thinking about shipping safety, we need to do the proper thing. Proper thing in stuffing a container or filling a container is not blocking the airflow inside the container, and that's what a lot of people do. A lot of mistakes are happening, and products get damaged because of it. So when we are talking about food safety, we need also to talk about food handling safety, not only about making sure the food does not have salmonella, or the food is not it's compliant. We need to make sure that the logistics of moving this food is safe and is appropriate. Finally, I'll just leave you with some takeaways. The export trade from Lebanon is expected to increase in the months to come, but preparation is critical before exporting. I think Abraham Lincoln said a while ago, many hundred years ago, he said that if he had the tree to chop and he had an axe and he had 10 minutes to chop the tree, he will spend 8 minutes sharpening the axe and 2 minutes in cutting it. So preparation is critical before exporting. Do your products meet the EU specifications? Do you have the right trade partner in the EU? Very important. Are you comfortable with your logistics partner? And as I said before, do you have full visibility throughout your cold chain? Finally, there are many factors to consider before exporting. The product shelf life and the minimum shelf life allowed in the EU. A lot of the time, countries will not allow you to bring products that have less than 6 months in shelf life. What kind of labeling requirements, what kind of packaging requirement, and finally, again, the certification needed. Always think that it can take up to 1 year to get certified. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, anything you would like to inquire about, any help we can offer, my email has been shown on all the slides. Tawfiq Kortbawi, email brttkortbawi@cmscgm.com. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Tawfiq, for this presentation. Now we move to Mr. Rani Azzi. Rani is the commercial director at Sodimo, part of the Fattal Group. Before that, he was a director at Chateau Kefraya and vice president of the Lebanese Agri-Food Innovation Cluster at Beirut. The floor is yours, Rani.
Hi, thank you, Celine, and thank you all for your presentations. And I would like to thank all the participants for being here. For my presentation, I will try to give the more practical side of the export, where it all starts, because first, exporting products start with the market, start having the market for the products. And here at Sodimo, we've been serving Lebanese companies since 1986. We're present in France at Gennevilliers, and we import products from Lebanon and the region, the Orient and Mediterranean, all over France and Europe. And we're here supporting Lebanon during this crisis as we've been doing it before. I will share my presentation and try to be brief to give more time for questions from the participants. Sorry, I'm just looking at the presentation. Okay.
Yes, we can see it.
We can see, yeah, okay.
Full mode, please.
Okay, it's good now? Yes, thank you.
Yes, now it's good.
First, at Sodimo, just to tell you a little bit more about the company, we're distributors of food and beverages in France and Europe. We have a network of European sub-distributors where we get all the products from Lebanon and the region and distribute them all over Europe. We have the alcohol, we have Chateau Kefraya, Exir, Domaine de Tourelle, Nakad, Wardi, Coteau du Liban, and Almaza, the alcohol sector. And we are very present also in the food sector. We distribute California Gardens, Rabi', Al-Amira Nuts, Michelin Food, and Durra and other food products. I want to just give you a little bit more knowledge regarding the market and the food trends here in Europe. First, there's an important point that the consumers here in France and Europe, at contrary that we think that we have just the price that interferes in the buying act, but we have to know that the first thing that producers buy here in France is the freshness of the product and the quality, and the price comes first. And this is an important point for all the producers to keep their product fresh and have the quality. Quality means to have the consistency of the product. Keeping this the product fresh means that they have to, that the product will stay fresh on the market. That means when they export their product, stay in the warehouse of the distributor for a few months and stay there, they lose all the freshness. For example, for beer, it should be consumed during the 6 months period. For wine, it should be white and rosé. It should be not more than 1 to 2 years. And this is an important point that we try to assure here at Sodimo to respond to this trend, is while having our warehouse here and distribute to all over Europe, where we can have always a turnover for the product to keep them fresh in the market for our end consumers. An additional trend here is the growth of the e-commerce. We have also a channel of e-commerce resellers, and organic and veganism also trending in France and Europe. And this is an opportunity for Lebanese product because we are mostly also we can't export products from animal origin, but we have most of product are comes from vegetables. The proxy snacking, and we have a lot of snacks in Lebanon. Transparency, clients are looking to have all the information they need on the product, and this is something that they should work on. The market needs, building on our experience on distributing, importing food products and knowing what can work and what cannot work, what the people are expecting to buy. Innovation is an important, very important point to having a product and have its place in the market. And this innovation could be in the flavors, packaging, the design, the health benefit, the shelf life. All of this can be in the innovation part. And I think Lebanon have all the minds and all the knowledge in order to innovate, regardless of the problems. And I would advise all the participants to look at KUT, an innovation cluster funded by Beirut, that's helping companies to innovate. And also another thing that is mastering and improving existing product. I'm giving the market needs for here. For example, we have the grapevine leaves. You have other countries that produce grapevine leaves, but we're not competitive at this product regarding the quality, for example. It's everywhere, but mastering the quality of such product can give a nudge for producers in Lebanon in order to export in Europe. In addition, there is also the ready-to-use products. Ready-to-eat products. I will speak further regarding this issue. I won't stand long the legal consideration of exporting because my colleagues already talked about it. But I want to mention that we as distributors, we are responsible of the products that we import in Europe. So that means if there is any problem that happens related to food safety of a product, will be held responsible of this product. So it's an important point to keep in mind. And this is an important point that we keep in mind while importing and distributing product. And we have several issues that we had in some products. This is why we are very picky while choosing the right partner, because working with a producer that we work with, that we are partners. Because during the process, when we choose the right product, we do the partnership with the producer, and we try to grow the market with him. And this is why we're really keen to have the quality and the consistency, and to be always straight to the norms in order to first to prevent ourselves. I'll talk a little bit about the existing channels for Lebanese agri-food products. This is an important point for producer to know. Some of the companies, I think, that are attending the webinar that already experienced exporters, or some of them are new to the export market. And it's very well important to understand the different channels for the Lebanese product. First, we have the ethnic market, and we say ethnic market. We have the Lebanese diaspora present in France and Europe, And we have also all the Arab countries, all the Arab immigrants, including Turkish, that have similar food that are present here in the market. This is the ethnic market. Just as an example, in France, there is 6.5 million immigrants. And that gives you a little bit an order of to see the size of the market regarding the ethnic market. And we have in the ethnic market, we have the Lebanese restaurants that takes a lot of the products and we are just let you know, Sodimo is present in as the leader in the Lebanese restaurant due to the distribution specifically of wine and beer that makes them distributes a lot of products like tahina and all the products that are used in the preparation of the food. And second, we have the ethnic shops. This is regarding the ethnic market. Ethnic shops are the shops that sells specifically products originally from Lebanon and the other countries. That's the first market. It's a big market by itself, but the market is bigger because when you go to the non-ethnic market is the French and the European market. We have also one section, which is the restaurants, the hotel and food service companies. For this specific market, they usually try to find like big containers. For example, let's say for the tahina, they look like for 80 kilos packaging. For pickles, they look for 10 kilogram packaging, bigger packaging because they use it in the preparation of food. The hypermarkets, wholesaler, and large food chain like Carrefour, Casino, Leclerc, Auchan, and others. This is a huge market for our product. Huge market for our product, but we have to present it the right way in order to be able to sell at these channels. And Sodimo, the advantage of Sodimo is that we can cover all these markets: the ethnic market, the non-ethnic market. First of all, before starting to export product, not talking about let's say the legal issues, we just like talking business, simple business. And this is I'm trying to resume a little bit our experience with several distributors that we already work with, or some distributors that some producer that we already had a lot of exchange, a lot on the possibility of exporting to Europe. First, you should know that the competition is not just Lebanon. It's not just Lebanese product. We have Turkish products on the market. We have also products coming from all the Arab and the Mediterranean. And you have also products, Lebanese or like kind of Lebanese product produced in the EU. I'll give an example, the hummus, for example. You have like hummus coming from Lebanon, and you have also hummus produced here in the EU. And you have also other product coming from all around the world. So you have to wind the spectrum and think that my products coming from Lebanon would not just be competing with Lebanese product, is competing with worldwide product. And the first thing to think of is where do my product stand? What's my positioning in the market? What's my positioning in the market, and what are the equivalent products or substitutes for my product? It's a very important issue. Mr. Saadallah, during his presentation, he showed, for example, gave an example regarding wine and said like we have the pricing of Lebanese wine. The unit price is around $8 per kilogram. This is one of the things that we do, and it's higher than other products. But we are in the positioning of high-end wines. We have medium to high-end wines, and when we know how to position ourselves in that place, we can sell at higher prices, and we can have our presence in the market when the quality is here, the consistency, the market is there. So these are important points to take them into consideration. Lebanon and the name Lebanon and the origin of Lebanon, it's something that attracts a lot the clients and the consumers, whether the Arab consumers or the EU consumer found this product coming from Lebanon or Lebanese, it's very important. This is why we can position ourselves on, we cannot compete only on the price. We have to compete on the niche product, working on the quality, the consistency, and we can have our presence in the market. Then you should think that what's my unique selling proposition? And you should think about it again in a worldwide thinking. So how can my product can be differentiated in the market regarding all the other products that are present there? I give you an example. For example, we have the Beverages. The Beverages is one of the products that we distribute here in the market. If you look at the price of this product, you can compare it to other similar products. For example, like the raw nuts that can substitute the Beverages during the aperitif that are sold here in the market, and you compare the price, there is a huge difference in the price. So I won't sell that. We can't sell Beverages here. We're selling it. We're selling to Lebanese restaurants and other places, but we will sell less because we're not competitive regarding the price. So an important, a very important point is the product quality price ratio. If you look at all the other parts of the presentation that I'm given, you have all the elements to do an estimation of the pricing of the products in the market. And I'll give you like a simple equation. If you like take your products coming from Lebanon, the price X works your company, and you have to add the transportation cost. You have to add the distributors margins. You have to add the stocking of the product. You have to add the VAT, the specific VAT to know. You have to add the margin of the retail shop or the restaurants, etc., etc. So a simple equation: take your products, your X work price, and you can like on average do like multiplication factor of 2.5, and you will know roughly how much my product will be sold on shelf. And now you have all the platform and all the online sale platform that you can see all the alternative products for how much are they sold, and you can compare if first I'm competitive regarding the price wise. If I'm not very far, okay, we can and have the quality that corresponds. That's an important. Then I can be competitive in the market, and then we as the distributors would be interested to work and partner up with producers, and this is our role. I'm trying to give a practical example because that came up to my mind while looking, for example, at hummus. Hummus in Lebanon, we think that it's just a product that we have only in Lebanon. Okay, we all know that's an international product, but just looking at this simple example, we have the hummus in cans, the regular hummus. All these competes together. But we have another innovations, hummus innovations, for example, done by Msme or by Smart Gourmet in Lebanon, or by the same producer, Kasih in Jordan. These are some other brands that are produced in Europe. There are other innovations done by other producers all around the world regarding the dip and go, for example, the hummus with kak done with Sabra, or we have hum and go in Lebanon. We have also Obela, and we have also the hummus produced by the distribution companies. So you can see for just this product that we sell a lot coming from Lebanon, but you can see that you can differentiate yourself and your production while doing innovations. For example, this hummus in pouch, the innovation done on this product have a larger shelf life and can be directly used. Other products that are very good and the quality is really good, but they have like some other constraints. For example, let's say hum and go and Smart Gourmet that coming from Lebanon, I guess Jad is here within the participants. We're interested to in these products, but we have some constraint. The constraint is because they need to always to have the cold chain. And if we do all the calculations, the pricing on the shelf price of the product will be very high. And then if the consumer will like, well, will look, for example, will I buy this hummus from Carrefour fresh from like, let's say 2 years, 10 days shelf life, and like Carrefour putting this hummus every 10 days, or I will go for the other alternative, the hummus coming from Lebanon, or I prefer, for example, as a client to go for this hummus in cans because that a larger shelf life and the price is less, or I would like to go for the proxy snacking hummus and go, for example, for Ham and Go, Obella, and Sabra. These are very important points to be taken into consideration, because while working on innovation, you can work and sell at higher prices, but you have to be aware what's the price, what's the end consumer price in comparison to other products in the market. Will I be competitive? And this is our role here as distributor. We be your partners here in developing your product and putting it in the market and help it grow in France, in Paris, and in Europe. The distributor and producer relationship, it's a win-win approach. The way we work, we put the objectives we have to have the objectives of the producer and the distributor must be aligned all together. So to start with, if I'm looking for a specific product coming from Lebanon, my objective is to put it on the market, because you have to know, we as distributor, we grow with the Lebanese companies. So when the Lebanese companies grow, when they export, our company will grow, because this is our edge, this is how we work. So the competitive advantage within the distributor's channel and portfolio, we have this innovation as qualitative product. This will help us to have this edge on the other competitors from the Arab world and from other countries, to put our product, the product in the market and develop it. We have all this, the product market fit. We as the distributor, it's very important for all the companies to know that the channel coverage of the distributor is an important point, and to have the right channels. For example, having a product coming from Lebanon, the basic thing, if it can fit for the hotels and restaurants, is to have the channels for Lebanese restaurants. This is, and we have it. And for another thing, if you have the ethnic shops, it's important to have the right channels to put your product in the ethnic shops. And if you go further to have like the wholesalers and the chains like Carrefour, and you have these to have these channels, it will help you grow quickly and sell your product more. And it will be much easier also while working with a distributor like Sodimo, for example, because we cover all Europe. So instead of dispatching containers all over there or exporting by pallets, we import several containers per month, and you'll have your product between these 7 containers, and your product will remain fresh because your product is here. We dispatch it all over Europe, and when the customers are out of stock, we can directly ship them, and they will have always the product fresh, and you will conserve the quality and the innovation that you have in the product. The sales exclusivity is important for both of us, because it's important because we can control the market and work well on the image of the product. It's a mutual support between the producer and the distributor, because we cannot do all the work by our own, but we set the strategy with the producer, and the producer, when they give them the feedback from the market, they apply it, and they will see the result coming on later on. Product quality, consistency, and production according to the EU standard, it's a basic thing, but we should have it. Once we have it, the channels are here. The channels are here, the clients are there. So, but we have this will maintain the business. So here at Sodimo, we are always supporting Lebanese company, and the Lebanese producer to export in France and Europe. We have made a lot of success stories with all our partners, whether in the wine sector, that you know very well, that the wine sector is one of the leading exporting products all over Europe. We have made a lot of success stories, putting them on the best tables, not just in the ethnic product, but also, in the Lebanese restaurant, but in other restaurants and other chains. And we're keeping on working on this issue. And we're also have a lot of success stories with our partner in the food industry, where we distributed all their products in France and Europe, and they're growing their business, and they're doing very good regardless of the crisis. So you have my contact here. You have all producers, all Lebanese producers. You have all the support from Sodimo. You have all our support to export your product. We are open to any product that can be exported to Europe. If there is the product market fit, the price is there, and if it fits and if it corresponds to the regulations, we are here to help you have your products in France and export to Europe. And this is what Lebanon needs for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rani, for the presentation. Now we move to the last intervention by Mrs. Huda Sayegh. She's the Principal Manager at EBRD Beirut, managing the Advice to Small Business program. Prior to her current position, Huda was an economic development consultant working with various international development organizations like the IFC and World Bank. She was also the finance manager at Al Majmoua, a major microfinance institution in Lebanon. The floor is yours, Huda.
Thank you so much, Celine. I turned off my video because I'm having internet issues, but I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. Okay, I'm going to share my screen so I can share the presentation. One second. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it well. Great.
Okay, excellent. I'll be quick, just I know we're running a little bit out of time. I'd like to introduce the program. So we are Advice for Small Business program is part of the SME Finance and Development part of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. For those of you who are not familiar with EBRD, it's one of the more recent international finance institutions. It was founded in '91 at the end of the Cold War, and the idea was it wanted to help this Eastern European bloc to become much more market-oriented and to promote private and entrepreneurial initiative. So EBRD is owned by its member countries, it's 69 countries, plus the European Union and the European Investment Bank. So these shareholders actually have they've contributed the capital, which forms our core funding. Yoju spoke a lot about our activities, so I won't go over it a lot. But obviously, we do project finance, trade facilitation program, policy reform dialogue, and the program that we're in, that I manage here in Lebanon, the advisory services for businesses. So EBRD is in 38 countries, and Lebanon became a member country in 2017. So to jump into the program directly, the Advice for Small Business program here in Lebanon is funded by the European Union, which we greatly appreciate. The aim of the program and its whole objective is to make sure that companies have access to the know-how that they need to grow. And when we say that, we usually refer to many types of advice that we can cover. We work with each company based on its needs, so it's really tailored for each company. And we always require a cost share. So although these are grants, but we do want the company to be fully invested in this, and to make sure that the projects that we are supporting are a priority for a company. So we always require a cost share. In addition to the advisory that we help companies with, we also do trainings for consultants. So we want to improve the consultancy market, and we also do seminars and webinars for companies. So we've done a few since COVID-19 has started. So we've done one on financial management, one on human resources management, one on strategy. We've also had a panel discussion in terms of accessing new markets that help companies start thinking of how can they deal with this period and some of the issues that they are facing, and for us to be able to better support them. So our program, as I mentioned, is focused on SMEs. So our criteria is the EU definition. So companies have to have existed for at least 2 years. The size can vary from small to up to 250 employees, and the turnover can be up to 50 million euros. So we actually work with a wide range of companies in Lebanon. It has to be owned, majority privately owned and majority owned Lebanese. We work with all sectors except financial services and anything harmful and harmful. So we don't work with I already financing, arms, tobacco, gambling, or anything environmentally harmful. So and a very important criteria for us is the integrity of the owners of the company, because for us this is a partnership with the companies. We are entering a partnership with them in the sense of we want to support people who have good reputation, companies that can well represent the country and can be catalysts for growth in their countries. So the way we do it in 2 different ways. We could do it either through local consultants or international experts. So for usually when a company needs something very specific, it's short in nature, it is really targeted, we can work with a local consultant. So we have a good database, an excellent database of local consultants that we vetted. They have good experience and good track record. We've checked them, we probably worked with them at this point. The projects tend to be short, 4 to 6 months. And here the client contribution ranges between 30 to 70%. So EBRD for companies that have less than 50 employees pays, the grant is at 70%. And as Eulogio mentioned, these are grants to companies. And the funding comes from the European Union to make sure that companies can grow in their economies. So as I said, we cover all types of advisory services, whether it's almost all types, strategy, marketing, organization, ICT, environmental management. And towards the end, I will speak towards in terms of export promotion, some of the work that we've been doing and some of the advice we've been supporting. We don't cover legal advice or valuations, but otherwise our services or what we cover are quite broad. The other part of our our advisory program is working with international experts, and we usually focus on larger companies that are really looking to transform and become regional or export to, for example, Europe, because we can connect them with sector experts who worked in the industry for over at least 15 years. And these sector experts can work with the company for over a year to transform its strategy, to connect them with buyers, distributors. They can help them develop the product that is appropriate for the markets that they are interested in going to. They can help them revise their production facilities to make sure they are in compliance with many of the regulations that are in the countries that they want to export to. These projects, as I said, are usually longer in nature, so it's at least 1 year. The project value is large, and the client contribution here is much smaller, and EBRD pays, the grant is a larger portion, obviously. So the company pays around 12 to 22%. The rest is part of the grant that is supported by the program. How does the program work? Usually company contacts us, so our email is knowhowlebanon@ebrd.com. We meet the company, we really try to understand their needs, what are the priorities, we kind of agree on a scope, we help them find the consultant. The project is, these are the local consultancy projects. The project is the company's project, so they select the consultant that they would like to work with, and we can pre-qualify consultants that they have if they need to, as long as they're legitimate, they're good consultants, they've worked in this industry, they have good references, we can work with anyone. So we help them select a consultant in the sense of giving them referrals, but they check the consultants and choose one. And then we sign a grant agreement with the company that once the work is done and the consultant has delivered all the material and all the deliverables, we would reimburse the company the grant, the 50 to 70%. So the consultant implements, we monitor the work, we make sure that it's done correctly. If there are any issues, we intervene. Once the work is done and the client has paid the consultant, we reimburse the company. A year after, we evaluate to make sure what is the impact of the work that we have done, and we are able to report back to our donors and to the community that we work with. We report back, for example, to the impact of the work that has happened. And we have seen a strong impact on the projects that we have done. So companies are able to improve their decision-making, cut costs, and increase revenues. In Lebanon, we hope that during this very difficult period, we can help companies at least maintain what they have, retain some of their employees, survive this period, and have a strong platform to even grow and as the opportunities allow. And just going back to some of the webinars we've talked about that we've done, because they've informed some of the projects that we have done during the past few months. We've talked to SMEs once at the breakout of the 17th October demonstrations, and we tried to understand from them what their needs were. And really, I mean, many of it was how do you manage the crisis? So prioritizing of what products to carry, their cash. But a big one is expanding their markets, because the Lebanese market has been hit significantly. That was in December. Of course, now it's even worse. So for them, the breadth of exports is really important for them to survive. Again, we held a panel discussion on accessing new markets, and some of the interesting discussions were along the lines of the challenges that companies face to export. So, and Rani talked about some of the stuff, but you know, there is like access to information. So how do you, and many of the panelists before spoke about them too, information is very important. So people need to understand the markets they are going to, and exporting is not an easy thing. If everybody was able to do it, they would. So they need information, they need to understand the regulations. The logistics are, really have to be studied before anybody can do anything. They need to understand the customer they're going to buy to the customer they're going to sell to, what their tastes are like, because they would have to, of course, accommodate that, and prepare their product to make sure that it fits the taste, but also all the regulations that are required for the countries that they are going to. So our program, especially during this period, has been very focused on helping companies deal with these challenges, because at this point, exporting can save a company, whether it is access to fresh dollars, whether it's access to a new market, whether the purchasing power that has been lost. So we've seen that we worked a lot on and some of these things that we've discussed, some of these obstacles. So in terms of access to information, we were working with companies on things such as their feasibility studies, market research, their growth strategy, so choosing which countries you want to go to. And I think there's a lot of work to be done before a company can go to any country. And some of this work we can support through consultants, because it is time consuming. It requires a lot of research. It requires a lot of maybe connections. And I think it is a good investment for companies to be able to access this information through consultants who've done this work before. And this program is meant to help these companies actually reach this knowledge. We've worked with companies on their product design to fit the needs and the tastes and even the shelf life that is needed to export, their distribution strategy. We've worked a lot on e-commerce platforms because that's one way that companies can be present abroad. But of course, it requires all the work that is behind it in terms of logistics and delivery and making sure that the products are delivered. Some of the companies we've worked with, I know, are on the companies that Rani mentioned. So we hope that this actually does create a funnel or a way for them to access the new markets that they need. And of course, on the operations side, companies need to revise their processes to make sure that they comply with regulations, that they are efficient, because they are competing with very different countries, as was mentioned. They have to find ways to get the quality certifications that are needed, which all of these we can support. We've done projects on financial management, especially on looking on the profitability of different products to see which products make sense to actually export and to work on. So this is a program very briefly. I just wanted to make sure that people are aware that it's here. It is, we're very available. So for anybody who's interested, they can reach us on the knowhowlebanon@ebrd.com email, and of course Celine will share the presentation and the information there.
Thank you so much, Huda, for the presentation. I would like to thank again all our speakers for accepting to be with us today and sharing their knowledge and expertise with us. I hope it was useful for companies, and the webinar has addressed some of their questions and concerns regarding exporting to the EU. Since most questions were actually addressed by our speakers, we will skip the questions and answers Q&A session and end our webinar now. In order to receive the presentations, please send us an email directly and we would be happy to share them with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Celine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Celine.
Thank you all for your presentation.